Can anybody tell me what these girls see in Toby? What am I missing? So after last night's absolutely shocking recoupling, when Toby picked Georgia S, obviously Arabella was upset, so she ran up to the room and she was devastated, she was shocked, right? And I was kind of thinking to myself, why is she like really that upset, right? They've not been coupled up for that long. But then she was talking about how they've been friends for years and all that, and she didn't expect it from him. And I was like, right, okay, I get it. Because I remember just last week, she was telling him how she really likes him and how mature he is. Now all of a sudden he's a wee boy. Now, at home, right, we don't even know Toby in real life. And from the first couple of days that he walked into the house, actually from day one, I thought he is such a fucking child. This is why I hate lad mentality. I can't be bothered with it. See these guys who walk about acting like lads and going, oi, oi, and all that. I'm like, fuck off. So Georgia S came up into the room and I kind of thought, now's not really the time. Like, give her a minute to, like, take in what's going on here. Do you know what I mean? She's in shock. But Georgia S obviously felt bad and she was saying, I didn't know he was going to pick me. It wasn't anything to do with me. Meanwhile, Molly's sitting looking at her as if, like, aye, right, Molly doesn't trust one thing that comes out of her mouth. And rightfully so, because she's a fucking compulsive liar. So Kaz was talking to Toby and she's explaining the obvious. And she's like, you should have spoke to her first. You should have, like, told people what was going on. You could have spoke to Callum. Like, you could have let people know what was happening. Arabella obviously just feels blindsided. So she says, you better go and speak to Callum first. And he's like, oh, like pure rolling his eye like an actual child, right? Oh, it's so annoying. So he went to Callum, and considering what had just happened, I thought that Callum was so calm. He was like, really the one you should be talking to is Arabella. You've hurt her, she's crying. Like, nobody knew what was going on. I thought we were friends, you could have came and spoke to us. But he was sitting there just like so calm. I would have been going mental. Like, I don't know how people in there manage to just stay composed. So Callum and Georgia S were talking about the situation and he was saying, why does he think it's not over? And she was like, oh, it wasn't like that, it wasn't like that. And to be fair, right, it wasn't really like that. He obviously took her to the side the night before and he was saying to her, there's always got to be something between us. And she's like, oh, Tobbs, there's always got to be something between us. We're always going to have something between us. Like, they weren't even boyfriend and girlfriend, right? But they've got this really deep connection that's just always got to be there. Like, I know that you can have connections with people that you're not a boyfriend and girlfriend with, right? But it's just the way she goes on about it as if they were together for like fucking 40 years. So Toby took Arabella for a chat and he said, sorry. And she was like, oh, sorry doesn't even come close to cutting like what you just did to me. And once again, right, she's sitting there so composed. Like, okay, she was shouting at him a wee bit, right? But she was so composed. And I'm glad that she realises that he's the one who should be embarrassed and not her. He's the one who blindsided her. He blindsided everybody in the house. Even Georgia S, right? But it's just the fact that she's just sitting there and she's like, you're the one who should be embarrassed. You should have spoke to me. Like, I thought we were friends and all that. Still totally calm. Now, I used to have serious anger problems, right? There would have been times where I'd have just fucking snapped him. But now I'm a lot calmer. But even with me meditating and stuff like that, I would not be able to sit there and listen to somebody just talk shit like that directly to my face. I would be going insane. The thing that made it even worse is the fact that Arabella wasn't even going nuts and she was just trying to tell him how she felt and how he went behind people's backs and how he was a dick basically without really saying that. And he's sitting like, I'd have been like, huh? See if you fucking roll your eyes at me one more time, I'm going to pull them out your head. Let me know in the comments, am I the only one who'd have been going absolutely insane? Like, aye, okay, they weren't paired up for that long, but he was just treating everybody in the house like an absolute dick. I've never liked him. So then Georgia S was talking to Chris and he was saying, oh, he always liked you, but he was just confused or whatever. And she's like, oh, it's good to know he's always cared. What's that? What the fuck? Anton and Georgia H were having a chat and she was basically friend-zoning him, right? But she did say that she was more attracted to him now because of the way he's been treating her and stuff like that. And it's such a sin because I feel as if it gets totally led on, right? And she's basically saying, oh, like, on paper, you're my perfect guy and all that. She didn't say on paper, but that's the kind of stuff that they say, right? And she's like, you're like the perfect guy and all that. And then he's saying to her, oh, my mum's into all the things that you're into and we can meditate together and all that. And I genuinely don't think that he's being fake, right? But he's probably just a really good liar. But I feel so bad for him because I feel as if she's saying, I want to be your friend, even though I find you attractive. She's leading him on, and I think he's just so desperate to be with anybody. Honestly, I think he's too good for her. I like the fact that she's spiritual and all that, and it's not even as if I think that she's a bitch or anything, but I do feel like she leads him on. So Josh and Sophie were chatting, and he was like, oh, I was so nervous, I didn't know what was going to happen, blah, blah, blah. But what actually happened was he was nervous because he didn't know if Joanna was going to pick him, and he wanted her to pick him. So now that she's not picked him, he's in a huff about it, and he's like, oh, my eyes are only on you, my head's not going to turn, like I'm not interested in talking to her or anything. Meanwhile, Joanna's thinking that she's still got to get to know him. Let's face it, he's going to be flirting with her. He fucking flirts with anything that moves, right? So he's now making out to Sophie as if she's the only one that he wants to get to know, because she previously told him that she said that to Chris. And then when they went out for the girls' drinks and she told Joanna that he said that, she's kind of looking as if like, what? So Arabella was talking to some of the people in the house, and she was saying that she thinks Toby picked Georgia to be strategic because they were second last in like the public vote. And that didn't even dawn on me, right? But it wouldn't surprise me because he's obviously there just to play a game and he's just a dick. So when they all went to bed, Callum and Arabella were like, oh, do you think that there's more going on than we know? And Callum was like, well, if there is something, then that's that. Now, understandably, because she's already been going to Tom behind his back and saying that she sees a future with him, and then she's telling him that to his face. Then behind his back she's saying, oh, I can't visualise myself sleeping with him. And now obviously she's talking to Toby. And the two of them are in bed cuddling straight away, right? And she's like, oh, I'm confused, we've got a history. And it's just like, I've got a history with people, right? I've got a history with a lot of people. And I could easily sleep in a bed with them without even thinking about giving them a cuddle. Because we're just friends now. And if they'd to cuddle into me, I'd be like, are you on drugs? When they were on the girls' day having cocktails and that, Arabella was basically bitching about Toby, obviously, because he's an arsehole. And Georgia S had the cheek to go, oh, I really rate him for doing that. I really rate him for doing that because he spoke his mind and he followed his heart. And I was like, fuck off. I'd have been like, you rate him? You actually rate him for doing it? The problem isn't that he picked Georgia. The problem is that he went behind everybody's back. He didn't tell anybody what he was thinking. He didn't go to Arabella or Callum or anybody and say, look, I'm thinking about picking Georgia. I'm having second thoughts or anything. He just went for it, right? And not in a good way. And Georgia S is sitting there going, oh, I really rate him for that. And Arabella's sitting just like, oh, I know it's not your fault. Regardless of whether it's her fault or not, I'd be like that, you rate him? You rate him for being an absolute fucking dick? Fuck off, Georgia. So Georgia S had a cheek to be in a huff with Callum because he hadn't really spoke to her since Toby picked her. And she was saying, oh, he's basically in a huff with me because I didn't cut it off straight away, but I'm confused. Like, how many guys can you like at once, right? She was confused about Tom, she was confused about Callum. Let's be honest, she's never been confused about Callum, she's just been using him the whole time. And now she's confused about Toby again. She does man nothing. So Callum was talking to Georgia and he was just being honest and he was saying, if you're going to crack on with Toby, then it's basically over between us, because he feels as if she's been leading him on or there's been chats going on behind their back or whatever. As anybody would think that, right? So he storms off in a huff, understandable. And she's sitting there like pure playing the victim. And then she's like laughing as if he's done something wrong. Right, now I know that he's absolutely hoaching and he needs a course of antibiotics or two. But that doesn't mean to say that he's in the wrong in this situation. She's been an absolute fucking slutbag. He's better off without her. But then at the end of the show, it was saying it on Sunday, it's PDA night, and I cannot wait, right? I can't wait till everybody sees Georgia talking to Tom and saying, oh, I'm confused, we've got a history. How many other people should get a history with? Bring them all into the house. Oh, let me know what you thought of tonight's episode.